What if the very movement claiming to protect Christianity in America is actually causing it to collapse? Back in 2007, 78% of all Americans identified as Christian. Today, that number has plummeted to 62%. That's quite a massive drop in less than 2 decades. And yet, during that same time, the political power of one specific, highly organized slice of Christianity has never been stronger. This is a story about a trade. How the quest for power, done in God's name, could be costing American Christianity its very soul. I'm David Tomsic, and this is Loud and Clear. First, let's talk about the great contradiction. This is where things get strange. While the number of Christians in the U.S. has been falling for decades, the political influence of conservative Christianity has exploded. This isn't a story about faith disappearing, but about its being transformed into something else entirely. A movement trying to fuse a specific version of Christian identity with American identity. Now, according to the Public Religion Research Institute, about 3 in 10 Americans are now considered either adherents or sympathizers of Christian nationalism. This is the idea that the U.S. should be officially declared a Christian nation and its laws should be based on Christian values. And this belief system has found a powerful partner in politics. The 2024 election was a perfect example. While the country as a whole was becoming more secular, white evangelical Protestants were a powerhouse at the polls, with over 8 in 10 voting for Donald Trump. Even though they're a minority, this group has a huge say in who wins elections, making them the Republican Party's most crucial religious base. This isn't a new alliance, but it's stronger than ever. It's a transaction, really, built on the idea that both are under attack. For many conservative Christians, the deal is simple. Give us your vote and we'll give you a leader who fights your battles, appoints the right judges, and pushes the policies you want. But what kind of worldview does that create? And who gets pushed out? Now, before I continue, if you enjoy the content we provide you here on Loud and Clear and you want to see more of it, please consider subscribing to the channel, hit that like button, and share the video with as many of your friends, family, and neighbors as you can. We appreciate it. Let's continue with the video. Number 2, the politics of exclusion. When a faith gets tangled up with a political agenda, its priorities change. They shift from the spiritual to the legislative. The policies pushed by this movement, often sold as defending religious freedom or biblical values, have real and often devastating effects on the most vulnerable people. Take health care. A key goal for years has been to cut federal funding for organizations like Planned Parenthood. After the 2024 elections, the effort went into overdrive, with new laws aimed at stopping these groups from getting Medicaid money for essential services like STI testing and cancer screenings in low-income areas. The stated reason is to target abortion, but the actual result is less health care for people who desperately need it. And this is happening at the same time as a wider push, backed by a majority of white evangelicals, to gut the social safety net. Then there's immigration. The political rhetoric often paints immigrants as a threat to the nation's security and culture. This leads to policies that are more about detention and deportation than compassion. It's a stance that flies in the face of clear biblical commands to welcome the stranger. Passages like Leviticus 19, which says to love the foreigner as yourself, get buried under our political agenda of keeping people out. And finally, you see the impact on LGBTQ plus Americans. The movement has fought hard against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI initiatives. These programs are painted as woke ideology that threatens so-called traditional families. The result is a political landscape that tries to erase LGBTQ plus identities from public life, framing their very existence as an attack on Christian values. This creates a world where an entire group of people are systematically marginalized and told that they are an offense to God. Number 3, the architecture of Christian nationalism. These policy fights aren't random. They're all part of a much bigger, more ambitious plan to fundamentally remake the American government. At the heart of this effort is the massive playbook known as Project 2025, and we've talked about that a lot here on this channel. Written by conservative think tanks and staffed by former Trump officials, Project 2025 is a 900-page guide for, in its own words, deconstructing the administrative state. It says it wants to make the family the center of American life and protect God-given individual rights. But this plan is radical. It calls for gutting federal agencies like the Department of Education and firing career civil servants to replace them with people loyal to conservative Christian nationalist agenda. Now, the language of Project 2025 says it all. It redefines the pursuit of happiness as the pursuit of blessedness, arguing that people must be free to live as His Creator ordained. This isn't just about changing policies. It's about injecting a specific theology into the very DNA of the government. It pushes to replace reproductive health care task forces with pro-life ones and demands the Department of Health and Human Services officially declare that marriage between a man and a woman is the ideal natural family. This is what it looks like when Christian nationalism gets a corner office in the federal government. It's an attempt to use the machinery of state power to enforce one narrow version of Christianity and turn faith into a weapon against anyone who doesn't conform. And through executive orders and strategic appointments, the project has been shockingly successful. Number 4, the spiritual cost. This brings us to the most important question. What is the spiritual cost of all this political power? What happens when a faith that claims to follow Jesus Christ pushes for policies that seem to do the exact opposite of what He taught? The Bible is full of warnings about getting too close to earthly power, especially at the expense of the poor and the outcast. In the book of Ezekiel, God condemns the leaders of Israel, calling them shepherds who fed themselves instead of their flock. He says, "You have not strengthened the weak or healed the sick or bound up the injured. You have not brought back the strays or searched for the lost." Now compare that to the policy goals we just talked about. A gospel that says to prioritize the least of these, like in Matthew 25, seems impossible to square with an agenda that cuts aid to the poor, demonizes immigrants, and marginalizes LGBTQ plus people. Jesus' entire ministry was defined by who He spent time with: tax collectors, prostitutes, and sinners, the outcasts of society. Yet the modern political movement that uses His name seems obsessed with casting people out. And the consequences are becoming clear. While the movement celebrates its political wins, the institution it claims to represent is bleeding followers. The decline is sharpest among the young. According to Gallup, just 22% of adults between 18 and 29 attend religious services regularly. A staggering 35% of young adults now say they have no religious preferences at all. They see a version of Christianity that's more interested in fighting culture wars than showing love, grace, and humility, and they are walking away. Okay, what we're seeing is the end of Christianity in America. This is what I believe. It's the end of American Christianity as we know it. It's splitting in two. One branch is pulling back from the national stage, focusing instead on local communities and serving others. The other is doubling down on its blend of faith and politics. An alliance that's delivering short-term victories, but causing devastating long-term spiritual damage. The path of Christian nationalism might hold political power for a while, but it's building a church on a foundation of fear and exclusion. It's creating a brand of faith that's unrecognizable to more and more Americans, especially young people, who are looking for authenticity and compassion, not a political checklist at the church door. The hard truth is that by trying to save itself with political power, this powerful segment of American Christianity may be guaranteeing its own irrelevance. It's gaining a political kingdom, but it's at risk of losing its very soul. And the question we all have to ask is, what's going to be left when the political winds finally change? And welcome to the bonus content. I'm glad you could stick around. Listen, I have a few things I want to get off my chest. First of all, I saw a post on Facebook from a pastor I know, right-wing evangelical pastor. Now, I know that in his church, he doesn't really preach politics at all. But I do know that he has very conservative views, and in conversations I've had with him, I know he leans very far right, and guaranteeing he voted for Donald Trump, as did most of his church. Now, in this post, he talked about how he didn't trust any of the news, that he didn't trust anybody, he didn't believe it. Now, if you remember, if you voted for Donald Trump used to pretty much say that everything was fake news. Don't believe anybody except Donald Trump. And now this is a way for them, Christians, to kind of avert having to face reality. They don't believe the news, so they're not going to listen to anything. Meanwhile, the tyranny continues. They won't stand for what's right. Because you see, if you don't agree or don't believe the news, then nothing's really wrong, right? You're not seeing it. No, I don't see anything. I don't see it. Now, this to me is heresy. If you don't stand for your neighbor, if you don't stand for someone's life, if it has no value to this country, to this president, to those ICE agents on the streets, it should have value to you as a Christian, right? No matter what. But I don't hear anybody from the Christian right standing for what's right. I've heard nobody defending these people that were brutalized, that were beat up, sprayed with pepper spray in the face, shot, threatened. It's okay, because those are the enemy. They're not like us. We're law-abiding citizens. And they always go back to that, don't they? They're disobeying the law. That woman tried to run over a federal agent. It doesn't really show that. And we do know that these federal agents really are nothing more than Nazis, fascists, created by Donald Trump and Kristi Noem to brutalize Americans. Not immigrants, to brutalize Americans, to put us all in our place, to stop the disobedience, to stop the disagreement with him. Let him create America in his image. So when I saw this post, I was not happy. I did not respond, and I'm not going to. But I must tell you that it bothered me because this is just another excuse they use, another bubble they place themselves in after voting a tyrant in, authoritarian in, an animal in, and they want to justify it every day they can. Well, we're just a law-abiding citizens, are you? What happened to Jesus in your messages? I don't hear him. What happened to talking with the immigrants, helping them, the poor, the needy, the outcast? No, we don't want them. We want them out. They want to get rid of everybody, purge them all. They want to make this great white nation. Now, if you ask them that, and I have, they'll deny it. Oh, they'll deny it. But their actions, as you say, actions speak louder than words. Their actions and their silence tells you otherwise. I get a feeling these people may not really be Christians. You let me know what you think in the comment section, because the words of Jesus were pretty specific. But what these Christians do is they pull scriptures from every other place in the Bible. They use them like it's a magic formula to solve every issue. One gentleman told me that when we were talking about the economy, that, wow, no, this isn't going to happen. It's all in the Bible. About our economy? No, I don't believe it is. But he tried to make the point, and he tried to explain it, and I really didn't listen. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to listen because I know how they think. I've heard this story before. Our own free will really doesn't count in their belief system. See, they always say, well, you have your own free will, except for everything that happens. God's really the one behind it. It was God that put Donald Trump in office. Actually, it was a majority of them voting, right-wing evangelicals, white people, that got him elected, while many of the others who voted in 2020 did not come out to vote. Was that God, or was that free will amongst the people? And if anything, maybe God allowed Donald Trump to be elected president so he can see who among his people really listened to him when he walked this earth. Obviously nobody, because all they want to talk about is Paul and the Old Testament and fire and brimstone. And this is where we're at. Law and order, fire and brimstone, God's law, Moses' law. And you don't hear much about Jesus. Love, forgiveness, grace, mercy. Tend to the least of these. We don't hear that anymore, do we? So let them hide behind their little Facebook posts. Let them hide behind their little fake bubbles. And one day this is going to bite them in the ass. So I want to say this. God bless those protesters in Minneapolis. I support you. It's time that all of us rose up and stood for what is right. And if you're a Christian, all you have to do is read those red words of Jesus in the Bible. Makes it easy. And he'll kind of tell you what you really need to do. So what do you think? Do you see this happening in your church, in your community, maybe even in your family? Share your thoughts and experiences respectfully in the comment section. And if you enjoy the content we provide you, please consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the like button and share the video with as many people as you can. We're here to give you as much information as we can about what's happening in America today. And we thank you for joining us. Remember, love your neighbor as yourself, and I'll see you next time right here on Loud and Clear.